Good morning and welcome to the PA AMR Conference. At this time, I would like to introduce Brad Higginbottom. Brad is a solar developer for Solar Landscape in Asbury Park, New Jersey, where he works primarily on developing community solar projects, concentrating on landfills, brownfields, and rooftops. Working in solar since 2018, Brad previously attended the U.S. Air Force Academy and flew F-111s for the U.S. Air Force. After his military service, he worked for AT&T as a district manager and is the broker-owner of Skybrook Realty. A proud Eagle Scout, Brad has organized the Memorial Day Parade in his hometown of Bound Brook every year since 1994. Served 3 terms on Borough Council and is a 20-gallon platelet blood donor and occasional preacher. He is married to a wife of 41 years, Roberta, and they have 3 adult children. I'd like to introduce Brad.
Hello, my name is Brad Higginbottom. I'm a solar development manager for Solar Landscape, headquartered in Asbury Park, New Jersey. This presentation is a little bit informative, a little bit of advocacy for community solar, Jersey style, and a little bit of bragging about Solar Landscape. Next slide. Solar Landscape is a pretty cool company to work for. Not only do we create solar projects, but we also have a lot of fun doing it. The 2 principals in our company, Sean Keegan and Corey Gross, are high school friends who started the company, and then they gathered smart people they like and have game film on to build solar projects. We're the leading community solar developer in New Jersey and have the most low to moderate income subscribers of any community solar provider in the country. We've been recognized with awards from New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. We won Solar Builders Community Solar Project of the Year award in 2021, and so far have been awarded over 50% of the rooftop New Jersey community solar capacity in a very competitive market. We've also just been named one of New Jersey's top places to work in 2022. We recently added Tom Layden and Felix Aguayo to our team, 2 very experienced solar developers who are both attending the conference. So take a few minutes to talk to them if you get a chance. Next slide. Oops. A little bit about myself. I'm old enough, so I've done a lot of things. And aside from my family and faith, there are a couple things I'm most proud of. I'm an Eagle Scout. My Eagle Scout project was helping set up my community's first recycling program back in 1972. Catchy name of OGNO, or Garbage Needs Organizing. Next slide. I'm proud to serve my country, although it was a long time ago. I flew F-111s and served in the Air Force for 7 years. Next slide. Also proud to have served my local community, 3 terms as a local councilman, and I've run my town's Memorial Day Parade since 1994. Next slide. Enough so nice. I am a big advocate of community solar. This presentation is timely given the recent passing of Pennsylvania House Bill 1161, which is now going to the Pennsylvania Senate. It's a little different form of community solar run by the EDCs, but it is a start. In New Jersey, we put solar arrays on large rooftops or landfills or brownfields or carports and send the energy to the local EDC's grid in exchange for credits, which we then sell to subscribers who receive 20 to 25% off of their electric bills. At least half of the savings have to go to low to moderate income subscribers. More on that later. Individual projects are limited to 5 megawatts DC, although you can collate projects with approval. Next slide. This is a simple explanation of community solar. You'd be surprised how many people don't get the concept on the first, second, or even 6th try. The old way is you put solar on your roof or on a backyard ground mount behind the meter. You are then limited to produce the amount of electricity you consume in an annual true-up. Most people can't afford to purchase a solar system or don't have a good roof. or have tall trees they don't want to cut down, or live in apartments or condos where they can't install solar at home. Community solar is the new way. You subscribe to a solar project based on your annual billing. There's no fee to sign up, no credit check, no barrier to exit the program, and you get a guaranteed percentage discount on your bill for the life of the program. Power comes from a solar array on a rooftop or landfill and goes to the electric grid. Credits are remote net metering and appear on your residential bill. Sounds too good to be true, right? We hear that a lot. Next slide. So we lease and pay a rental fee for using a property or rooftop that would otherwise sit idle. For empty rooftops or contaminated land, this is often the highest and best use. A commercial building owner with a low capitalization rate of say 5% can increase the value of their property with the increased rent. We've seen a real life example recently where a building with a $100,000 a year solar rent agreement early in their 20-year lease agreement then sold for $2 million more than its previous value. Companies and municipalities are also looking to achieve ESG, or environmental, social, and governance goals while profiting from community solar. Next slide. Hard to read, but this is the current scoring system for New Jersey community solar applications. I'm kind of getting into the informational and advocacy weeds here, but the New Jersey Community Solar Program is competitive, and projects are chosen based on a scoring rubric that attempts to accomplish success for the program's goals. There are 100 points available with up to 5 bonus points. This evaluation criteria drives behavior, not always in the best way, but it does tend to help pick the most beneficial projects. The first criterion is that your project will have at least 50% LMI, or low to moderate income subscribers, and is worth 25 points. In the first 2 rounds of this program, no projects not agreeing to the LMI component have been selected. The next criterion is siting. Rooftops, landfills, brownfields, carports, and floating solar on sand and gravel pits all receive the maximum 20 points. Other floating solar projects can get some points. Greenfields get 0 points. So far, no greenfield projects have been selected for the program. Now I can make the argument that a solar project is the ultimate farm and greenfield presentation tool, as 40 years later, you'll still have a farm or a meadow as opposed to a housing development. But not everyone buys into that argument. States like Massachusetts and New York have had good success with greenfield projects. And a lot of farms and open land in Pennsylvania already have lease options from solar developers in anticipation of community solar, which is yet to be passed. But New Jersey has chosen to make open land difficult to build solar on. Reserved farmland, where the farmer has taken money to never develop the land, is not an option for New Jersey community solar. The third criterion on this slide is community and environmental justice engagement. This criterion is a little bit fuzzier, but you get points for getting support from the municipality or the county, from community nonprofits, and from affordable housing providers. Of course, this sets up a form of competition to get the support through municipalities, but the municipalities are actually supporting the program and not necessarily endorsing one particular company over another. Next slide.
Yeah, I'm sorry it cut off like that.
Product offering is about the offer we make to our subscribers. It drives companies towards offering greater than 20% guaranteed savings discount and away from having cancellation fees and long-term contracts. For round 2, Solar Landscape is offering at least 21% discounts, and in some cases 25% discounts. The other benefits category encourages having a job training program, which we do, or intern program, and offering energy audits to your customers. Offering EV charging stations and or battery storage are other ways to pick up some points. Like most areas in the US, New Jersey has insufficient charging stations available and is yet to offer incentives for adding battery storage to solar systems. Geographic limits can be worth up to 5 points if you limit subscribers to the municipality in which the project is located and adjacent towns. This does require a careful analysis of population and demographics. A 5 megawatt DC project in a rural community can really make for difficulties in getting the project fulfilled. And finally, project maturity gives point credit if you've started the permitting and interconnection process. Next slide. A few things to emphasize on the scoring process. The low to moderate income scoring requirement presents additional costs in obtaining subscribers. New Jersey requires some form of income verification in many instances, and this can lead to a reluctance to share personal data, as well as a reluctance to self-report as an LMI household. While New Jersey is moving to consolidated billing through the EDC, currently customers enrolled in New Jersey Community Solar get 2 bills. One showing their community solar discount on the electric company's bill, and the other a bill from the solar provider. This leads to some billing confusion on the part of the customer, as well as the additional inconvenience of an extra bill. Another issue, as previously stated, is the geographical limit can shrink the customer pool and can lead to increased expenses in filling out the project. Next slide. Some other thoughts on New Jersey peculiarities. All people from New Jersey are peculiar. All interconnection is done through the individual EDC or electric distribution company. So BGM is not involved. This is a major benefit. And my understanding of current Pennsylvania solar law is PA community solar projects will have to go through the BGM process, which has a huge backlog, is currently undergoing a change in procedures with some projects that require network upgrades, taking a minimum of 4 years to complete interconnection. Hopefully that won't be the case when Pennsylvania passes community solar. Currently, New Jersey community solar is only less than 1% of installed solar, although it does represent over 13% of the current pipeline. Other states like New York allow large subscribers like Walmart to subscribe to large projects. Our LMI requirements and the need to get the higher residential rate, billing rate to fund the projects limits this ability in New Jersey and leads to significant sign-up costs. These can average around $500 to $1,000 per subscriber, depending on who you ask. Next slide. This slide depicts how we interact with our hosts for a typical rooftop solar project. We do not interfere at all with the building tenants or day-to-day operations. We are able to pay the solar rent even if the building is vacant. And we guarantee our work as far as not damaging the roof, and we work with the owner and tenants if there are any repairs needed. Next slide. This is showing setting up for a rooftop install. Note the plywood down to avoid damage, and that the connection to the grid does not interfere with the building's power at all. Next slide. A little more bragging about Solar Landscape. All 8 of our year 1 community solar projects are completed, while in all of New Jersey, only 16 of the 45 projects from year 1 are completed. We had the first completed project in Perth Amboy, so Governor Murphy gave us a lot of recognition in the ribbon cutting ceremony. All of Solar Landscape's 46 awarded year 2 projects are either completed, in construction, or permitted. We have our own 50+ member construction workforce and pay prevailing wage on most of our projects, which leads to happy employees and good retention. Next slide. Here's 5 of our first 8 solar projects. They're all rooftops, but they're all completed, and they're all we all have subscribers, we're all producing electricity, so it's all a happy story here. Excellent. We are awaiting New Jersey BPU's, or Board of Public Utilities, rules for the permanent program as we wait for round 3. We're also hoping they'll take into account COVID, cause delays, and increase the amount of available megawatts from 150 to 300. this timeline is an estimate, but as you can see, all projects take a while to complete, and there's always the uncertainty of the competitive nature of the program. We sometimes invest a lot of time and upfront money for a project that doesn't make the cut. Next slide. I appreciate your attendance and those on the internet, but take any questions you have at this time.
You've been working more commercial than residential right now?
We do. We're mostly community solar, but we do all commercial. Solar Landscape doesn't do residential, except the fact that all of our subscribers, or most of our subscribers for community solar, are in fact residential. So we work really well within the communities. We help with food drives, we run events, we help with Sustainable New Jersey, but mostly we're in the community where we do that geographical limit where like if it's in Perth Amboy, it can only be in Perth Amboy or their surrounding towns. So we go into Perth Amboy, we go to events, we sign up people and we benefit the community. And it really is community solar. It absolutely benefits the town we put it in, whether the town, financially benefits or not, it benefits the residents. Yes.
Right, you said in New Jersey, there's a lot of EDCs. Some of the other states in Appalachia have a lot of EDCs. I don't know how many we have here in Pennsylvania necessarily, because a lot of the nonprofit community groups that we're working with are not EDCs. And so those type of development corporations.
Oh, okay, yeah, and when I use EBC, I'm saying electric distribution company.
Oh,
Not
okay.
which is another good term, EDC. So yeah,
Totally different, okay.
right, yeah. So New Jersey, there's PSC&G, JCP&L.
So it's your local utilities then?
The utilities, actually, right.
Like a PPL or UGI here in Pennsylvania.
Right. And I'm just saying, I'm not sure how it's gonna shake out. Like everybody else that's here, that they can spell solar, we're waiting for community solar. We hope they get it right, or we're happy to advocate. And again, that's part of the reason for this talk, was to say, it's working in New Jersey. There's some drawbacks and trade-offs, but it's mostly an LMI-based program, and it's there to help people who can't participate in solar experience. Yes, sir.
So it seems pretty difficult to get greenfield community solar passed in New Jersey. What are other kind of common setups there besides rooftop? Landfills,
Brownfields,
mines, and stuff like that.
Carports, on top of parking decks, actually over roadways, but that really hasn't happened yet. I mean, we're looking for anything. What do we do? It's like when you have an east-west highway and there's a barrier wall and it's facing south, that might be a good spot.
Yeah.
But actually, what I'm pursuing are landfills, and there's a lot of landfills in New Jersey, and most of the good ones have been picked over, but there's still some prospects there. Brownfields, Pennsylvania, you got your coal stuff here. In New Jersey, we got chemical brownfields, and it's amazing. I'm live, healthy. but anyway, all those brownfields, they're good sites, because usually the best use for a brownfield, if you can totally remediate it, put a warehouse on it. You don't want to put a nursery school on it. But if you can't, or if time is the remediator, then solar is the answer. And solar is a good spot. You put it on there for 25, 30 years, and while it continues to remediate through time rather than active activities. Yes, sir.
How do you see, or your company see, the potential of solar working with active mine treatment plants or at all?
I mean, once they're done, as long as we're not interfering with the rehabilitation or anything, we think it's a perfect spot. As long as you can do remote net metering, that is, you're going to create electricity. As long as there's a way to interconnect it to the grid and get it to the grid, and then all that energy that's produced should be creating credits that we can sell again to to residents and benefit them.
And an added to that question is, there might be opportunities in Pennsylvania where you can have multiple types of projects on reclaimed land. Tom and I worked on a Superfund site that had 3 projects in one. We had a PJM connected solar field. We had a community solar project field and a behind the meter project field, solar that was supplying 100% of the power needed for the pumping operations that were needed for cleaning up the water on site. So there may be opportunities beyond community solar for some of the larger sites here, particularly if they have power need requirements on an ongoing basis.
What about these active sites that are remote? Do you consider the idea that you have batteries that would charge and run a specific site alone, and what type of, I don't know, maybe Bobby, you know what type of power is needed to run some of these active sites?
I mean, in some states we've seen that they have a three-phase pole right to this treatment system up in the Nanticoke area. If there's a maelstrom oxidizer system on one of your conservancy sites in Nanticoke Creek, and it takes 2 pumps at varying times they turn on because of the flow rates, and it's one pole connected right to the local utility that's right along the main road. You know, it's there, but if it's a little more rural, it's a matter of the poles to get to those sites. But yeah, it's typically the aeration that you've been hearing about. It's going to be those utility costs that are going to be paid by somebody.
Yep.
And if it can be reduced with solar, that's definitely a way that I think we're all going to be looking at. And if some of those sites, I was just talking to my coworker here about water-filled stripping pits, we got water-filled areas that are treatment ponds that could have a floating solar or something, possibly. There may be the potential to put that over the top of some of these sites. We haven't really discussed that a lot, but we have had a few conversations with some folks that were interested in, hey, I got a water-filled pit on my property and I don't want to fill it in, I don't have enough material, clean C&D waste or something to do that. So what can I do to keep the level of water that's in there, put something else on it? And we said, I've heard about these floating solar things that go on in France and some of these other ponds and other places, you know, that would be some potential.
There's a couple in New Jersey, and these two are the guys to bring it in if you're looking at it. But you can actually set up you can have a self-sustaining place that doesn't have power into it. You can set up a solar array with battery, depending on the usage and time of usage, it could possibly work. So.
And the key idea is that there are multiple ways that solar can help beyond what I think is the prevailing wisdom. Oh, if you want solar, you need 100 acres and you have to be PJM connected. That is one model, and that's been a very successful model, particularly out west. Out east, we're thinking about it in a more creative fashion, where we want to have sites that may have dual use opportunities, where we're supplying the power for active remediation activity, for example, and also community solar benefits, like what Brad has described, which is a brand new model that most people aren't familiar with, but could definitely deliver community benefits. The residences, rather than opposing it, will say, if I'm going to benefit, then hey, bring it on.
But to your question about remote power, so it's always been used for remote power for forever. It was telecommunications in the early days of solar, where they're, on a mountaintop somewhere and it costs a fortune to get, power there. So solar's been around a long time doing that. Now with batteries, battery costs have come down. So solar and batteries together, many more applications are opening up. And we're doing some projects out in California right now in the middle of nowhere, because the utility doesn't want the liability anymore of power lines going down, starting forest fire.
What about some of the common, does solar operate well under cloud cover? Do you need to have sunlight all the time? So some people think that that's, when I talk to people about it, I said, well, like in Western Pennsylvania, there's a lot of cloud cover, and even with clear sky, how well does it do under cloudy conditions?
We have very good history of what the energy availability is around the planet right now. So that's good. So we know over, if you're in Western Pennsylvania for the last like 50 years, on August 21st, what's the average, or what's the high and low. So we have that information now, so we can design the solar around that. So it's the amount of capacity you have with the sun, and then how much battery storage you need for your particular use. If it's a pump, depending on the size of the pump, but that could very easily be powered by solar.
Good answer.
One thing to add to the thread here, I guess, is the distinction between land for what we call a merchant solar plant in our industry. So that the two types of projects are, without getting too much detail, there's end use load. You're talking about a building that pulls power from the grid. They have load, they pay an electric bill. And that's what we call behind the meter in our industry, where we're going to build on site, sell power to that meter, that customer that's pulling load, it's pumps, this factory, whatever. These community solars and these other models that we employ, I'm also a solar developer, parallel to these guys doing other stuff as well. Part of what we do is just we acquire and lease the land. And in that case, there's no off maker. You don't need, there's no load. We're selling the power to the grid. That's our deal. All this is a lease with the landowner, and he has no role in the power itself. So those are the two different models. You have one where you're dealing with somebody that's buying the power, and you have one where we're going to take the power and sell it into the commodity markets. Community solar is one of those market mechanisms. There's 2 dozen others.
Yeah, I was at a highway engineers conference where we're talking about electric cars and charging stations and how to advance them out and would solar be a good idea. There was no one there representing solar at the time. And those were the questions that came up about battery versus should the cities get involved? Like Canton, Ohio was the one. They themselves are starting it up, and then at what time do they get out of the market so they're not competing with commercial development?
Solar is good for powering charging stations, but best if it's part of a larger project. In other words, I'm doing the building and I have some charging stations for my employees. You can charge it with that, because then, say if you don't have enough power going in, you can still use the grid. But it's good applications being done in a lot of places where they're putting up carports for solar, still building the building, but as an ancillary, it's also powering the
Yeah. I do provide erosion control for sheets build outs, and they're doing a lot of charging, more and more charging stations. It would be interesting to see. I didn't see in any of the plans about them having solar on their roofs to, or even if they ever considered it. But, I mean, they're the main concept for any of them is how close to the interstate are they going to be for those to be.
They're more concerned with their commercial activities.
Yeah, but I haven't seen any, this commercial roofing situation might be a good one for them to consider.
And speaking to your comment on the cloud cover, the sun hours across the country, they vary. You go out to the Central Valley of California, you might be getting 4,000 hours, and you're going to get more output and stuff, but pretty much everywhere across the country, you're going to be over 2,000 hours of sun a year. And, you're going to definitely have enough to provide a good solar array system. And there's tons of them going up in like northern Sweden, Scandinavia, places where there's a lot less sun hours.
A lot of the Lakeland areas, like up in Erie, there's a lot of moisture, a lot of cloud cover because of the Lakeland area. So that was, the cloud cover is to the point where they put a lot of military army pools out there so that because of cloud cover in that area in the 40s and 50s. And that's why I was curious, because I live near one of those locations, and they're always talking about cloud cover. So
they say like a standard, 6 acres per megawatt you need, but you maybe go to Central Valley, California, that might go down to about 4 or something, and maybe you go to a really cloudy area, it might go to 7, but it's still viable.
And the modeling tools, we can determine that very quickly today.
Yeah,
Stuff
I
that
didn't
used to
think of
take the
that.
slide rule and a lot of research and stuff. It's click now. And, that's pretty well available for any location.
thank you. Thank you all.
Steve, are there any comments?
No question, just a comment. Eric Oliver wanted to say thank you for advocating for rooftops and for scoring low on sites where trees, wetlands, and conserved lands exist. That's it. Yep.
Okay, thank you all.